Alrighty, let's go ahead and get started. Well, hello everyone, and thank you for joining our webinar this morning as a follow-up to our presentation at the InvestNet conference in Chicago. Cities Digital is very proud to be a Tamarac integration partner and a leading Laserfiche reseller in the country. My name is Morgan Wheeler, and I am the Director of Sales here at Cities Digital. And today, I'm going to take a little closer look with you at what it means to plug a document management system like Laserfiche and its workflow tools right into and avail itself of the beautiful structure of data that we call CRM, namely Tamarac CRM. We'll run through some document management basics, what you should expect from a system like this, and then peek at a live workflow and the Tamarac integration as well. Feel free to type any workflow, or any questions you may have about workflow or Tamarac or whatnot in the questions dialog box, and I'll make sure to get to them here at the very end of the presentation. So Cities Digital has now grown to be the largest Laserfiche reseller in financial services over the last 13 years. We have been vetted and approved by numbers of private and public regulatory groups. We have a professional project management team now and different divisions. And over the years, we have developed a very turnkey approach to implementing document management and workflow. And we continue to grow. It was a good bet 13 years ago, and it continues to be today. And one of those elements of specialization is our deep relationship with the Tamarac staff, both their account management and their development staff, bringing you a connection and a unison between the Tamarac application and Laserfiche, your document management and workflow tool, amongst others. For my new folks in the room, Laserfiche, of course, is moving now into its second generation of being a family-owned business. It has 40,000 plus installations now worldwide and really claims an extensive base of financial service firms of various shades, and maintains itself as, yes, a document management system, but also with an up-to-date latest feature set, like integrations with your applications, a different app for all the various devices out there, a web form suite, as well as API and SDK tools and the like. Now, conceptually, just so we make sure to understand what Laserfiche is it's a movement away from decentralized distributed Windows folders to a central document repository, or content repository rather, as it's not just documents that can be stored in Laserfiche, but it's a central location on a server, either in a cloud, in our data center, for instance, or on your local servers, so that you now can treat documents more efficiently and, of course, bring in the compliance element, and they start to act more along the standard of efficiency that we expect from raw data. That's really what a document management system fundamentally does. It turns containers of distributed trapped information across Windows folders and in other lesser systems, and turns them into something that is regularly accessible as data, still visible as a document, but now availing yourself of the best of the pieces and data within that document and in the whole or in parts. And Laserfiche does this by offering a central repository for documents and files. And that central document management repository or content repository does properly position itself as a replacement to Windows folders, as it generally looks, acts, and feels like those folders that you're already used to, just with a considerably added set of opportunities and features. And we'll see that here in a second. Now, Laserfiche kind of acts in that way as integrative middleware between your documents and your various other applications. So not only providing you that digital filing cabinet that is searchable and secure and compliant, has an audit trail running behind it, but it can now also be seen through Tamarac, accessed remotely, pushed to your client portal, pushed to DocuSign, automatically download from Laser App, and serves as that central kind of final piece of technology that comes after portfolio management and financial management and CRM and maybe a handful of others. You get the whole shop humming on all cylinders, and then these documents just sit here in a system that is, or in folders rather, or perhaps another type of system that is probably at the very least not globally searchable, and at the very sharp end of that blade not compliant. And in that way, Laserfiche allows you to distribute documents to various applications in the way people want to see them. So, for instance, most of the advisors on my client staff live and breathe out of their CRM. They want to see document management through the eyes of the CRM. That's fine with given our integration. However, support staff and operational staff often need to access the document management system, the digital filing cabinet, which is a dramatic understatement of what Laserfiche is. But the example is fitting. They may need to access it directly through a myriad of different devices, and all of that can be pulled together with the implementation of an ECM, an Enterprise Content Management System, which is really the proper name for something like Laserfiche. So let's dispense with a couple of the basic expectations you should have about what a document management system should give you, and therefore that feature set be plugged into your CRM, in this case Tamarac, which we'll see today. Once you're logged into Laserfiche, usually just through your regular Windows login, your users are presented with the nested folder structure we all have known and come to love over the decades of interacting with Windows applications and the Windows operating system. This emulates the Windows file handling experience. So drag and drop, double click to open, right click for options and properties, etc. Minimizes the training need and the learning curve. And of course, users will only see the folders on the tree there on the left that they have access to. So only certain support staff and advisors and managers see certain client files and not others. Smaller organizations that may not be a need, but that becomes increasingly important to do, complying with SEC Rules 17A3 and 4. There's 4 components to that: unalterability, auditability, folder level security, and full text search. That third one, folder level security, is kind of a military-like need-to-know requirement. If you don't interact with a certain client base or group, or you don't work on their stuff, you really shouldn't see their folders. And that's very difficult to accommodate in regular Windows or other types of simple filing systems. Very easy to accommodate in Windows, and that security carries through to Tamarac and is ultimately built off of Active Directory anyway. So no multiple logins. It just pulls your particular Windows login and knows exactly what you can see, and therefore what you can see through the integration with Tamarac. Everything can be stored here as well, so that brings in operational documents as well. Laserfiche is a leading solution for client documentation, but is a viable solution end-to-end within your organization for all types of organizations, all types of organizational schemes and documents. So, for instance, the overarching common department through all of our businesses is, of course, the HR department. And those documents take us even deeper into the layers of the compliance onion, bringing in HIPAA and a few other requirements. But Laserfiche satisfies those in its off-the-shelf configuration and provides you with a holistic enterprise content management system for more than just client documents. But that's the only time I will mention that particular use of the system today, because we're focused on financial advisor use today, and the rest will all be about client docs. But it doesn't just end there. Pop open the Laserfiche document viewer if you don't actually want to double-click a document and open it. Have a little preview, different types of views. They're all saved, and they pass right through into Tamarac when you look at a document through the Tamarac integration as well. The off-the-shelf set of scanning tools that comes with Laserfiche allows you to scan right through Tamarac and into the Laserfiche client folder set, and I'll show you this here with the integration in just a second. But whether you're using Laserfiche through Tamarac or you're using it on an iPad remotely or on a laptop or in the office, Laserfiche comes with its own scanning tools and pulls the information about that particular client right out of Tamarac as long as you have that particular client folder selected, or are dragging and dropping into that folder, for instance, or are using the Tamarac integration and just drag and drop right through the Tamarac interface, which we will also see. Drag and drop or scan right through Tamarac into your now plugged-in document repository that has replaced your Windows folders or other kind of legacy filing systems. When I mentioned SEC Rule 17A3 and 4, of course, searchability is one of those 4 big ones. It was put in there for archaic reasons, just so we didn't lose documents when we scan them into a system. but now has been trumped by the productivity hit of being able to find certain matters and certain clients and certain issues deep buried within a certain document at a moment's notice, and then email that off to a client, for instance. And that opens in a document viewer that we're familiar with because it's based on the look and feel of Laserfiche, of Adobe PDF, and including the available metadata about that particular document, all of which here is populated automatically from Tamarac. So we have a complete synchronization between the fields that are available alongside our documents and alongside our folders that inform our file naming conventions, all pulled from that data set in Tamarac that we've already invested so much in building. Why not? It's just a collection of client name, account number, social security number, form types, custodian. It's the collection of all the information that will likely be placed in those template fields manually when scanning in a document. So why not bring Tamarac into the mix and allow Tamarac to essentially auto-populate the important fields? Maybe you're selecting document type and the particular client off of a drop-down list, but nothing more than that. And then Laserfiche is pulling all the rest of the information from Tamarac and auto-filing it for you. And we'll see that here in a second. Now, of course, the documents, one of the other big four in compliance is unalterability. But Laserfiche, of course, brings that the best of both worlds there into Tamarac and into the regular Laserfiche document viewer. We're able to see unalterable document file formats in a viewer that allows us to still put sticky notes and highlights and redactions and callouts on it, so we can still make all the edits that we need to without editing the document. And that's a particular reconciliation of a contentious issue that presents itself with all of my clients between compliance and client service. Storing things in an unalterable file format almost always means the level 3 multi-page black and white 300 DPI TIFF. That's what the SEC is getting at in SEC Rule 17A3 and 4. But you absolutely can't send a TIFF to a client. So what is the reconciliation behind an unalterable document format and the PDF that ultimately needs to be sent to a particular client? Well, that's an unalterable file stored in a document management system that lets you make overlays, electronic overlays that don't affect the integrity of the document. And then whenever it's sent out to a client, emailed out, sent to DocuSign, dragged and dropped even out of the system, it automatically converts over to a PDF. So you have the best of both worlds there, and nobody has to mind essentially the file conversion. Now, Laserfiche presents itself as a replacement to the Windows file and folder structure, and so it must be seamlessly integrated to do that effectively. And there's even an added dynamic to that with the added buttons that we see in the ribbon in Microsoft Outlook, as well as Microsoft Word. These buttons allow us to interact between our document editing tools and the Laserfiche repository directly, allow us to save an email that we get in right to the Laserfiche repository, or for instance, the file attachment, and we see that here. We can save that attachment right into our Laserfiche repository while the actual email is tracked in Tamarac. This presents a nice best of both worlds solution as well to financial firms that have the overarching question of what to do with an email. There's often promissory language in the message, but the attachment is usually the document that matters. So where does the correspondence end and the content begins? And the correspondence, of course, being the purview of your CRM, and the document, the attachment, being the purview of a content management system, a document management system. Well, through Laserfiche's easy interaction with your email clients and Tamarac, that can just automatically, that decision can be made automatically or on the fly through the simple click of a button. Save the document to my document management system, linked over to this contact in CRM, where I can see the email that came in that brought that attachment. Everything, of course, that comes into Laserfiche, even our Word documents and Excel spreadsheets, have version tracking available to them, and we can see this just by right-clicking a document and selecting its metadata, or even just viewing the metadata in Tamarac, which we'll see here live. All of these feature sets, all of the document scanning and searchability and usability and reconciliation between unalterability and editable files, the versioning, all of these are the features that you should begin to expect from a document management system that can be accessed either directly or right through our little button that we'll place in Tamarac that I'll switch over to here and show as I wrap up our little run through of plugging in easy document management and workflow into your Tamarac CRM. Now, digital signatures are another kind of point of confusion within the financial services sector, and that usually the fine line usually has to do with whether or not the client's in the actual office. If they're in the actual office, they can sign right there in a document that pops up out of Tamarac or right out of Laserfiche proper, and they can sign on a little pad right in the office that burns a signature, an unalterable signature, into a TIFF, an unalterable file format, and records the time and date and the authentication. That particular scenario is a compliant means of collecting client wet signatures without ever printing the document. If the client is not in the office, however, we just push the document right out of Laserfiche, again, selecting the document in the tab in Tamarac that we'll see, and just clicking the button that says Send a DocuSign. And if we have a client agreement that we have prepared in Laserfiche, maybe we downloaded it out of Laser app or form filled it in Laserfiche even, and now we want to send that to a client to have them sign in the TD approved, Fidelity approved, Schwab approved way, or just the single most popular digital signature tool yet. Just clicking this little DocuSign button in the top bar of the Laserfiche application through Tamarac or in Laserfiche directly, we'll send that document directly to the client for signature. And they will already, the email address that's been pulled out of Tamarac and stored alongside as metadata in your documents in Laserfiche can automatically push that email address into DocuSign, so that when the document is submitted and for final signature, you'll see the screen here. You get one chance to drag some signature fields to certain regions of the document and actually add some annotations in DocuSign if you like. But once you hit the little send button, which we see here in the bottom left, that will actually send that copy of the document to the client automatically without you ever having to type in their email address, because it pulled it right from Tamarac through Laserfiche and pushed that information along with the document into DocuSign. Client goes in and signs in DocuSign, and then a signed copy moves back into Laserfiche for you, which you can have an email notification or other notification attached to, and again, see it all right through Tamarac, and push status notifications perhaps to different fields in Tamarac if you have the Tamarac API. That's one caveat with pushing information back into Tamarac in terms of field notifications, but their API is a beautifully structured thing as well, and that is an absolute capability of the Laserfiche workflow tool as well. Now, everything that's happening here, because it's coming through Laserfiche and the documents originating in Laserfiche or being saved out of Laser app to Laserfiche or other form generating tools, even the Laserfiche eForms tool, which we'll have a quick peek at here, all of this is being tracked in the Laserfiche audit trail. So it's telling us which user is doing what item, whether or not it was successful, what particular server they were on, were they using an iPad app, an Android app, an iPhone app, the thick client, the browser-based, what's called thin client, what they were looking at, whether it was successful, and much, much more information about what's going on with your documents and resources. It's also tracking the Tamarac activity in the Laserfiche repository, workflow activity. So you have a complete log as to what's happening to documents, what's happening with the system-wide access to your document management system. And this goes well above and beyond the auditability requirements of SEC 17A3 and 4, and really musters as a robust e-discovery tool as well. And I mentioned the thin client here, and this is where we start to get into what is how we push the the file and folder view of Laserfiche into Tamarac. And this is what we would see. We'll see an iframe, and I'll actually show you this here live. We'll see a particular tab right next to the Tamarac contact, the normal contact record you see. You'll see the Laserfiche Thin client, the browser-based version, popped up right next to it, but you'll just see that particular client's folder. So if we're on John and Jane Doe, for instance, account record in Tamarac, and we hit the little Laserfiche button, it's going to give us John and Jane Doe's client folder structure only, which we can drag and drop files to, as you see here in the image, and it collects all the information about that particular client, or even scan a document right through the embedded thin client that we built into Tamarac. And you can see the scan button right here. We'll see that here in just a second. A little look at it through the iPad. And now the other component of this presentation was of course, workflow automation. And we'll see a workflow live here. And so as I wrap up my last couple of slides for you before I jump into the applications, I'll just show you the ability to have front-end instructions added to your workflows, your automation that can be delivered right to the user as a pop-up or an email notification. People can start workflows right on the fly. Workflows are an evolving thing as well, just like digital signatures and e-forms in the financial service sector. And they used to be these completely back-end things that required programmers entirely. Now, not so much. Through the use of front-end tools like the ability to start a business process tool, like form fill out a new IRA adoption agreement for this particular client, auto-populate out a new client agreement, a change order, generate new documents out of the data set that we know we have over in Tamarac, pull it right out through Laserfiche and generate the document, using the CRM data to guide your construction and management of documents, but all files really. You can start those on the fly and provide users instructions all along the way. In the background, the Laserfiche Workflow Designer is the guts of all of this, and that pushes and pulls data out of Tamarac and back to Laserfiche. And if we have access to the Tamarac API, pushes status notifications and all manners of data back into custom fields in Tamarac. And this is one of the interfaces that my team is extremely proficient at working through, but it's available to you as well as simple Microsoft Visio-like workflow designer. Tools on the left, the activities that you would want to use, drag them to a canvas in the middle, very simple instructions about what happens. These can all be customized. Add some data over on the right in terms of what happens at each step. This is where we'd have things push and pull data, for instance, to Tamarac or any other application, or pull information out of metadata and populate a PDF, all sorts of activities that this Laserfiche workflow tool can accommodate as an integrative middleware of sorts between your other applications and, of course, your documents. And one of the newer modules that that was released last year to the Laserfiche suite intuitively is an electronic forms tool. Now, this can be something that advisors fill out and perfectly generate documents, filled out PDFs, your own existing PDFs, the PDFs you have right now, that could be filled out via an electronic form and auto-generated so you don't miss a single piece of data. And it's all typed out there and then rendered in a couple of different ways for the client to sign. This could be client-facing, or what's very popular now is a quick e-form for the client, for the advisor to fill out while discussing with a particular client. That's generated, pushed into Laserfiche, maybe signed at the office or through DocuSign. But that is the content of our electronic forms webinar, which is coming up soon here as well. So I won't belabor that one too much, but electronic forms just intuitively feed perfectly into a document workflow engine. So let's go take a look at a couple other items here as we wrap up our presentation today. And I have on my desktop, I've got Tamarac open and I've got Laserfiche open. I have them both open here so we can take a look at both applications here, but if you're an advisor especially, you would probably only use Laserfiche through the Tamarac integration. If you're support staff or heavily involved in scanning or an effort to get rid of some file cabinets, you may find it better to access Laserfiche directly, like I have right here on the top screen. If you're a remote advisor, for instance, not even in the office, you'll definitely use it all through the Tamarac integration. So let's look here at a quick document workflow, for instance, that feeds information to Tamarac and pulls information out of it. And so I'm going to click on my new business workflow here that I have lined up for you in a series of 1, 2, 3, 4 folders. I'm going to minimize Tamarac in the background here just to keep our screen simple. And what we'll point out though for you is that this 1, 2, 3, 4 folder structure here isn't how we'd actually have things in reality. We'd of course have an incoming scans folder. It's a very popular way to coordinate scanning into a single location that you just auto-file then via your selection of metadata. Many of my advanced firms choose this methodology rather than drilling down into the particular client folders, for instance, to file things. Can always do it that way, but this is maybe a little bit of a better way. You tell me. So I'm going to drag and drop a document because I don't have a scanner attached to this particular computer, but it's all the same. In comes an unnamed document into Laserfiche through a number of means. Maybe I save it from an email, or I print to Laserfiche, or I save, I drag and drop something through Tamarac. No matter how we do this, we assign template information, and this is what the Tamarac integration can auto-apply for us to nearly 100%. Now, the advisor here it would be auto-selected if this was Tim logged in, but I'm logged in as a support staff, an admin user, so I'll assign this document to Tim. Now, I'm going to type in a client name here so that we can see a brand new folder created. So I'll type in, for instance, let's type in Abbott, and we'll type in Gene. So I'm just going to type that in so we have a new value here, so there's no smoke and mirrors. But how you would have this lined up if you've got the Tamarac integration with Laserfiche is a drop-down calendar here would show you all the clients that you have in Tamarac. This could be leads, prospects, or actual accounts, or separated into 3 different categories. You'd have a little scroll bar here if the list was long, like it usually is. This is an effective method for hundreds, if not thousands, of clients. We can start typing in a particular client's name, and it pops right into that field for me there. And this is, of course, automatically updated via what's called a dynamic field over to my client list in Tamarac. And so I would automatically also be able to pull in my account number and the custodian I was with here. Now I'm bringing in a brand new client here, and so I'm doing this a little differently than we would have in production, but through the dynamic field linkage here between your Laserfiche templates and the data set in Tamarac, we can grab all the important information that is prime for misspelling or for errors, and leave the advisor or support staff really only choosing document type and grabbing the date off of a drop-down calendar, and they don't have to be bothered with how to format that date. You'll remember I never named this particular document. So again, an edified use of collecting some basic information about a document, what I like to call just asking the user some basic questions about this document they're submitting to the system. These would all be named according to your particular office's wording for documents, so would the names of the template. You'd only have a few of these, maybe even a smaller template to this, because it's all going to be synced as much as possible over to the data set in Tamarac. And then that information will, of course, be used to auto-name and auto-file this document. And we'll see I never named this document. I click OK. Now I'm going to do the OCRing right away just so we can see that it's done, and we'll see an extracted text layer here. OCRing means optical character recognition. That's making the document full text searchable, and that, of course, is one of our productivity and our compliance requirements. And this now also can be moved to a later time. So if we're scanning in a lot of documents and we need to hold off on OCRing because it's just going to make the process take a little bit too long, we can absolutely turn it off, go back in and OCR later, or even schedule it to come back on. So you'll notice our document's no longer in this incoming scans folder, Anybody can have access to this incoming scans folder. They just scan the document there, select the right document type, sync it over to Tamarac if it's a client file, for instance, and then Laserfiche will make the decision to route it here to our compliance manager. Now, we'll notice here that there is Ms. Abbott's document. It's been auto-named, auto-filed, auto-routed, and has a workflow status that could be reported to Tamarac at any point. So if we go to Ms. Abbott's contact record at any point and we're looking for the status of her new account paperwork, we'd see that it's pending review in the fields that are available for customization. Now I could double-click this and view the document in the Laserfiche document viewer. There's the text layer I mentioned to you. We just extracted. I'll get rid of that because it's not necessarily something people always like to take a look at. But here's our document that we have. We just brought in all of the information synced with Tamarac. I could just change this approval to approved here, and the document will auto-file under Tim's client folders. But let's say I'm out of the office, so I'm not here to see this document arrive in my particular file in Laserfiche. So I'll log in remotely, maybe through Tamarac, and I'll take a look at this particular document and approve it on my iPad, my iPhone, my Android device, any remote device. Can be used from anywhere with a connection to not only retrieve documents, but also participate in workflows while not in the office. And I'm storing this all on my own local computer here, so that took just a little longer than it would for you. But here we are, and there's Ms. Abbott's document. I'll just go ahead and change her status field to approved. Save my changes and log out, because that's what we do when we're remotely accessing anything with client information. And we'll see here back in the home office system that her document is gone. We've routed a shortcut here to the compliance manager for his overarching view of all the changes to retirement accounts, at least. They like to keep a close eye on that. So they routed a shortcut, but that shortcut could be deleted at any point, as could any shortcut to this document that was created, because of course we've got the original here that lives in perpetuity in the right folder, auto-created for the right document type that was auto-named and filed with the workflow status approved. Of course, that could be reported to Tamarac at any point. And I'll just point out that, of course, whenever we create a new client folder, we wouldn't want just one client subfolder created. We would want a whole set of subfolders created, which of course would be the case with workflow. Easy to do. I just like to do it this way for visual ease right away, so we see it's the same folder with the document type we chose off that template field to begin with. And so now we've got this client folder. It's got everything auto-filing into it, and we want to see and interact with this document management system through Tamarac. Well, that's easily done through the same web-based tools that you use to access Tamarac already. So here we are on the Abby family record. Now I'm using a Tamarac demo account, so forgive me if it times out a little bit. It'll log me right back in, but it'll cause a little bit of a delay. If we are here managing the Abby family's information, we're interacting with their assets, we're gathering information for our next client meeting, and we want to see documents associated with this particular account. We just click the little Laserfiche button here, and that pops up a tab for us with that family's file and folder set right out of Laserfiche. I've had this open for a little while as well while I've been talking to you, so it'll auto-log me back in here. But now what we have is a unison between our tabs with all our client information on it right next door to all the folders for that particular client. So whenever we need to go in and access a particular document, for instance, or drag and drop a document, let's open an application here, right? Here I am, right next to my Abby family record in Tamarac, and I want to see an application that opens right here next to just a little tab next to the folder, so we can see any of the information that we need to on the documents, and also all of that synchronized metadata, which is loading here over on the left. My internet connection is just taking a little bit of time to load. And there we are. And so we have a linkage between that information and our documents now. This would say Tamarac ID. It's just a CRM unique identifier, insert CRM name here, and allows us to link the folder set for a particular client, in this particular case the Abbey family, in Laserfiche with their unique ID over to that particular same unique entity in Tamarac. And so this allows us to not only have a unison between the Tamarac record and our documents, but also the data that lies in between. If we wanted to scan to this particular folder, we just pop open Laserfiche scanning right here with the metadata populated for the Abbey family. Or if we want to drag and drop into the system, since I don't have a scanner attached to the computer, we can always just drag and drop this into the Laserfiche system. And as we see here, because we're in the Abbey family record, Laserfiche knows which particular client this is, and will collect all that information here in these Laserfiche template fields when we drag and drop something into the system. And I'll just show you that here briefly. Remember these template fields. And I don't have this particular system set to connect right now, but this is where all of that client information would line back up. So all of our, we're in client files here, excuse me. And so we'd be able to synchronize all of these particular template fields with the information in Laserfiche. This is in one of my dev systems, so I won't do that right now, but we saw that right next to the application here in the tab next to our Tamarac CRM record. And there's our little Laserfiche button, for instance, just to remind you where we are. We're in the Accounts tab in Tamarac, so when we come off the home page, we would go into our particular accounts, and this is where we would land. And right in what Tamarac calls the ellipses, we have the Tamarac button. It allows us to interact with the document folder for the Abbey family, just that particular document folder set, so we don't have to juggle back and forth with the Laserfiche application, let you see here, but that should indeed be an option when we're doing more operational or admin-focused uploading or scanning into Laserfiche. Either is an option for you. So that brings our presentation to a bit of a conclusion. I thank you very much for your time today. I hope this all rang some bells with you and was a particularly on-point presentation. I know most of you in the room today, and of the few others I had the pleasure of interacting with you at the Tamarac conference. Thank you for stopping by. That makes those conferences all the much more fun for us, and we continue to enjoy being one of the premier Tamarac partners. If you have any further questions about how this all works or would like to see a more customized demonstration, I'm always happy to do that. Please feel free to shoot me an email or give me a call anytime. And without further ado, thanks again for your time, and have a great paperless day. Bye for now.